Hello everyone, Mimikins here. Today I'm going to give my first impressions on the game Grounded. This game has just released as early access on Xbox, Microsoft Store and Steam and is scheduled for a full release in 2021. It's developed by Obsidian Entertainment, who have produced some good games such as Pillars of Eternity and The Outer Worlds. Grounded is a survival game with a twist. Your character has been shrunk down in size. Suddenly the back garden is a dangerous place, and the smallest of bugs can feel deadly. If you've ever watched the movies Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or Bug's Life, the developers have said they found inspiration in those movies, and it clearly shows. The world looks gorgeous and has great atmosphere. I love the lighting effects through the grass during the day, and it's really immersive. While at night the atmosphere changes and it feels more terrifying. Even small bugs attacking can be frightening, as you just don't know what's come up behind you. Some areas are lit up by the moon while others are much darker and it's harder to see what's there. You can of course carry torches to light the way, but if you don't have materials you're left listening and creeping around to avoid detection by spiders, which for me are by far the scariest bug I've encountered. In some open areas looking into the distance, the depth of field can make it feel like your character is nearsighted and distant objects are blurry. However, most of the time I was exploring through the grass, and this was more of the art style of the game to make these objects feel far away. I don't always enjoy the depth of field settings in my games and would have liked the option to turn it off. However, no such option was currently available. The game has a very short, incomplete story at the moment, which I was able to finish in roughly 30 minutes. However, I did get a notice once I had completed it that they will be adding in more story and content in the future. It was just getting interesting as well, but I won't spoil that storyline for you. Let's just say this game has more on offer than a handful of creepy crawlies. The combat is quite basic from what I've played and does have room to grow. I think Obsidian should add in some unique high-tech gadgets to work towards in the endgame. There are some touches within the game, like being able to glide using dandelions. I'd love to see more of these kind of things added, using nature but applying science and logic without losing the fantasy setting of the game. I love the crafting system. You can create different armour from various bugs which have unique set effects, and it's not necessarily that one set that's best for everything, but rather have different purposes. I will say that crafting does need a few quality of life improvements, such as a craft all button and the ability to store items within the workbench. Those of you who may have played Ark Survival will know what I'm talking about. Although I was able to withdraw all items from storage chests, I was unable to deposit more than one item at a time, unless I dragged and dropped individual items, which did feel cumbersome. I struggled with inventory management. Between the tools I needed for harvesting and the weapons armour needed for self-defense, it felt like my inventory was always at least half full even before I left home base. Then there were so many items I wanted to pick up while exploring that I always felt I was having to rush off to deposit items in my storage chest, which were starting to overflow as the stack sizes of items are relatively small. I hope they might add in new ways to craft mobile storage options to help alleviate this. An example could be a larger backpack, or maybe my own little robot slave to carry things around for me. In Ark Survival Evolved, dinosaurs could be used as transportation for both players and crafting materials. Some dinos even had built-in effects that could only otherwise be usable at crafting stations or forges. I would love to have the option of taming my own ant army or ladybug for potential flight options. I think allowing players to interact with wildlife in this way could really open up the depth of the endgame. There is no mini-map in the game, which at first I didn't like. However, after playing the game for a while I realised this was probably intentional. Instead of being over-reliant on using a mini-map for orientation, I was learning the lay of the land. And I found I had the ability to craft markers to lay on the ground, which were essentially waypoints, which helped out a lot while trying to make my way back to camp after losing my bearings trying to run away from spiders. Keyword being try. Those nasty critters are fast and sometimes surprisingly difficult to see until they're almost on top of you. You can play this game alone or as a multiplayer. There's no dedicated servers, so one person has to host the game and other players can join in. Anyone joining will start off with nothing and don't have any of the progression transferred back to their own game. My suggestion is, if you want to play with a friend, hosting is to create storage in their game and leave your items there upon exiting the session. That way you will always have equipment and resources to come back to. This isn't an ideal fix, but it's a workaround for the time being, and perhaps Obsidian could expand on the multiplayer feature in a way that lets all players within a session carry progress back to their own worlds in some sense. I like the building system in that I can map out my base with visible blueprints and go around collecting the materials. I learned the recipe to craft the floors after I'd made the walls of my base. When I tried to connect the floor, it had some clipping issues with the natural terrain. I also had a spider spawn inside my base, which was nothing short of terrifying. I feel learning the core basic recipes together with the lesser non-essential items at the NPC would have made my building process a bit smoother and possibly prevented my uninvited guests. I know spiders go into houses, but come on, this guy practically took up the entire house. I felt very vulnerable to the larger bugs, many of which could two-shot me. Whenever I encountered them, I'd run away. The only way I could defeat them was to stand on a high place and hope they wouldn't reach me. The sheer amount of arrows required to kill them is insane, and I don't think I could have been kiting it around for that long while evading hits. Some of them are faster than they look. I still have weapons to upgrade, and I hope this doesn't trivialize the fights. I want a challenge, but in a fair way. I did on occasions use other bugs to help kill predators. For instance, when I got attacked by some soldier ants and I lost my bag, I ran down inside the tunnel and lured them away to a nearby ladybug who attacked and killed them for me, allowing me to retrieve my belongings. Other times I noticed that some of the bigger bugs fought each other, so I'd watch from afar and I'd go over and loot materials from the bug that lost. Overall, I think the game design is good, and as a survival game it made me feel vulnerable, as it should. The spiders felt extremely intimidating, hit hard and were tough to take down. It made me cautious about my movements. I knew that anything that was large enough to move the grass had the potential to two-shot me. I had many adventures trying to recollect my belongings after having ventured too far into an underground hole and dying to a bug. The game does have a huge amount of potential, and for an early access game it's definitely worth a look. As it currently stands, I feel £25 or $30 is a high asking price on Steam, while other players are able to try it for free on Xbox Game Pass. However, if they make this game to the same quality as some of their other products such as Outer Worlds and Pillars of Eternity, supporting Grounded through early access will be worth the investment. It is a work in progress, and much of the feedback given will be used by the developers to enhance the game further. And once launched it will cost more, so if you have intentions of playing it later, then now might be a good time to jump in and support the development. It feels like a backyard version of Ark Survival Evolved, which also started off as an early access game, and with the support of fans turned into something very special. I have thousands of hours in that game. If anyone played Ark back in its early stage, it was pretty bad, and Grounded is definitely starting off in a better place in terms of gameplay. It runs smoothly and the world is gorgeous. Obviously there's areas of the game that need extra polish, but that's to be expected in a game that's under development. Even in its current state it's enjoyable, and I would recommend it for players who like the survival sandbox games with base building. To summarise my points: good graphics and a good atmosphere. An interesting concept that feels different to other survival games out there. After you complete the story, there are many things still to explore, which helps add longevity to the game. I love the base building and the natural look of the items I can make. The game runs smoothly, and personally I haven't had any crashes or errors. There's a multiplayer option so you can play with friends. It can be played in either a first person or a third person perspective. The basic building blocks of a great game are already here, and there's even more to look forward to. It's an early access game, so content isn't yet complete, and some people may feel uncomfortable investing their money into potential. £25 or $30 feels a little high for what it currently is. However, the game price will go up at full launch once it has more content. The story is very short, and we're unsure how this is going to develop. There's no dedicated servers, which means if you want to play with friends, someone will need to always be available to host the game, so not to lose progression. Inventory space management is an issue for me. Equipped armor takes up a slot in your bag, moving around items feels cumbersome, and there's no deposit all or auto sort features. Lack of character customization. You can only pick between 4 preset characters. I would recommend Grounded if you like sandbox horror and survival type games. It's already starting off in a strong position with the potential to get even better. According to the wiki, it was developed by only 13 people, which just goes to show while not a large team behind the project, they are certainly talented and the product we have so far has a nice level of polish to it. There are still some areas that can be improved, and this is to be expected of any early access game. I've enjoyed my time with the game so far, even though I was scared and have probably developed a fear of spiders now. Thanks for watching, please support the channel by liking and subscribing, and I'll see you next time.